me a great pleasure to kick off with the with Foundation song, Eamon Carr's new book of poetry. To start the proceedings, we have Dominic Taylor, the CEO of Revival Press, the publisher. Dominic Taylor.
Tom. Agus tá fáilte roimh gach duine. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you on this significant occasion, the launch of Foundation Song, a new collection of poems by the talented writer, musician and journalist Eamon Carr. As publishers of Eamon's book, I'd like to take a moment to explain the role of the Limerick Writers Centre Revival Press. Our main objective is to bring the world of books, literature and writing to as many people as possible. We firmly believe that literature is vital. We value the love of reading, the art of writing, and the transformative power of literary expression in individuals and communities. Our mission is to support the growth of writers and foster a vibrant literary community. In the words of Seamus Heaney, we seek to catch the heart off guard and blow it open. In 2009, we established our community publishing program, and tonight we are proud to launch the 150th title published by the Limerick Writers Centre Revival Press under this program. It's important to note that our community publishing program focuses on producing short-run, high-quality titles that are accessible to readers. Tonight, I am proud, as the Limerick Writers Centre Revival Press has guided Foundation Song from its inception to the painstaking process of writing to the joyous moment of publication here tonight. Eamon's poems explore various themes such as humanity, suffering, war, love and Irish mythology. The book also includes poems inspired by his travels in Italy and Spain. His attention to detail and ability to capture both the dark and light aspects of life marks him out as an important voice in today's chaotic world. Finally, it's worth reflecting on the fact that just a few years ago, many predicted the demise of the printed book as e-books surged in popularity. However, publishers continue to produce printed books, booksellers continue to sell them, and libraries are still adorned with their presence. Printed books may be considered an old technology, but in my opinion, it is still cutting edge. Books remain a powerful medium for dialogue between individuals and communities. And as Samuel Beckett rightly stated, words are all we have. So on that note, I'd like to express my gratitude to all of you for being here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dominic Taylor. Now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Tom Carty, who will officially launch the book. Tom Carty.
Hello everyone, and thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Thomas Carty, and I am the current BOI Celtic Heavyweight Champion. A couple of weeks ago I met with Eamon. Thanks very much. A couple of weeks ago I met with Eamon with my coach Pascal Collins, who's here, and we were having a chat. He was chatting to me about tonight about the event that he was running, and speaking with Eamon, I knew that he wrote about boxers and boxing in the Herald, but little did I know that he was into poetry. So going on in the chat anyways, the only connection I could think of myself between boxing and poetry was the words of Muhammad Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. That was about the only correlation I could make myself. I'm just going to take you through. So Eamon gave me a copy of his book on the day, and not many people here know me that well, but I wouldn't be the biggest avid fan of poetry, as you can probably imagine. There are two extremes, boxing and poetry, as far as I can see, but there is some correlation to be made. I'm going to take you through one poem in particular that resonated with me a lot. So the very last one, ironically, Foundation Song. So I'm going to call it out for you anyways. Away from the grey rocks, endless white horses and knifing wind, this dark pool of hope. Boats are silent, upriver, the sun sails low. Smoke hangs by the water, below the green slopes. In the firelight, golden eyes reflect the promise of a world yet to be known. Flint sparks, bloodied swords, hammers that echo long, beneath the canopy of stars, our Foundation Song. And this one really, really resonated with me, which are a couple that I read. I'm also a fluent Irish speaker. There's a couple of Irish ones in there as well, which I thought was really cool. It was probably the first poetry book that I ever read, so I'd like to thank Eamon very much for introducing me to poetry. Hopefully it won't be the last. And now I'd like to introduce the man himself, Mr. Eamon Carr.
Right. So here we are now. Anyway, Thomas, I have to thank Thomas. The reason I asked Thomas, I knew he wasn't, well, possibly he is, but I didn't know him as a literary critic. But I know him as a future world champion. So the BUI Celtic heavyweight title is just the first, and he's working his way through the grades. So get with the Carty party. So it's happening. A lot of people to thank, obviously, and Paul Keaveney, this wonderful room, and this wall, in case you haven't looked at it, is actually a Norman wall. So it's so apt. Foundation song, it's a fantastic wall. Richard McDermott, the events manager, an old soul, a path should have crossed the whole way, but obviously didn't have done that. Fantastic. And of course, the person who brought it all together was Mannix. So, and Mannix is a fantastic force himself. So there are loads of people, and the boys from Limerick, of course, and women from Limerick. Wonderful imprint, and delighted to be on the revival imprint. But I'd be nowhere without friends. Most of them are in this room. And Hugh McFadden, Catherine Ann Cullen, Martina Devlin, wonderful people who actually sort of helped get this over the line. So thanks to all of them. And the funny thing is, I thought I might get out of this doing as little as possible. But obviously, I have to show winning. So I was thinking earlier on, what the hell am I going to say? I've been asked loads of questions about the kid on the cover, and some people were saying, "Was that you? Was that you?" No, it's not. It's actually it's a kid in a refugee camp in Kosovo, on the border of Kosovo. I took it. I took myself around 2000. I was out reporting, and I was thinking about this today. I was trying to figure out why he was smiling and flashing peace sign. If you look closely, you can see there's a wooden bench in the background with a woman in sort of folkish dress and so on and so forth. And then I realised that the bench is new, and this was obviously a UN one or something. It was obviously a new camp, and a clean camp with got food in it, because a lot of the places I was, and I took a lot of photographs as well, because people wouldn't believe me, right? I needed to remind myself what I was looking at. And all the kids' eyes were damaged. So, except this kid, he was smiling. So I hate going back there in my head, but so I was reporting on this stuff, and then I sort of, years later, I probably should have had counselling or something, but I didn't. So I started writing about it. And I think part of that was, just get out of my system, number one. But then I sort of also realised that I could write 2 pages in the Herald, or the Indo, or whatever. And that's pure reportage. And essentially it's news. And today's news is tomorrow's chip paper. And I thought that maybe that some of the essential truths that I was experiencing might actually sort of carry on if I put them into a sort of a poetic frame. And so anyway, that's why I sort of, pushed on. And I read one of them now. It's an easier one to read. So it's called Meadowlands. Anyway, you get the flavour. Travelling for hours through borderland hill country, tarmac, washed from a track, potholed and scarred. Driven from their homes, traumatised families are hiding in these woods, desperate to reach sanctuary. From a cliff on one side, meadowlands slope gently towards a copse, and further down a valley with a silver stream. The distant view, not unlike the landscape in Leonardo's Mona Lisa, and the air, fragrant with wildflowers and herbs. I take the opportunity to step into the inviting tall grasses. Suddenly, an army patrol sweeps around the bend and pulls to a halt. An urgent, upper-class British accent inquires, "Is everything all right?" It's a UN peacekeeping patrol. Relieved, I reply, "Yes, thank you. I'm just admiring the view." "Don't step any further," advises the officer. "Retrace your steps carefully and be sure to stick to the road from here. This area is heavily mined. There have been casualties." So, one of the things that happened when I was on this expedition was I was having a coffee somewhere and there was nobody around, and suddenly these two fellas appeared and they sat right here beside me. Straight away, you've been checked out. And one of them was an older man, and the other guy was younger, handsome looking fella, and a bit haunted looking, and he had a bit of English, so he said, "You English?" I said, "No, Irish." "Oh, Irish." Turned out anyway that he'd been from Kosovo. We started chatting, and bit by bit, I discovered he was in the Kosovo Liberation Army, and he was waiting to try and meet troops who were coming to fight for the cause, and they were going to take them up into the mountains. And but we seemed to get on okay because he'd actually sort of gone and worked in Munich in the hotel industry, and he'd worked with a guy from Ireland, so we had this sort of rapport. But it was just an acknowledgement really, because his story, fighting the life family, essentially out of his entire family, his village had been wiped out, and his wife was killed, his parents were killed, cousins, and so on. He had one uncle, that's the only living relative he had. One uncle was left, and he was in a camp, a refugee camp somewhere. And he was pleading, bizarre, he was obviously desperate, he was pleading with me to go away and write, to try and persuade the Americans to send him jets and so on. So this was the time. So anyway, there's nothing I could really do. Well, I did, I really did. But when I was writing trying to put that into a poem, it became sort of a ballad. I used the ballad form, and my friend Ken O'Duffy actually had written a melody for this, and I think Ken spoke to perform it. He might have realised it, and last night at the Gentleman's Club and sing the songs, Ken's recent albums are absolutely gems, by the way, essential. I think you need to get your hands on them. So anyway, the song in question, the poem in question, is "The Year the Harvest Was Lost." Arsen Padjazati, I couldn't really pronounce his name, but I got him to write it down in my notebook. And so, I actually kept a record of these things. So this is his story, essentially.
Just first of all, I think I'd like to say congratulations to Eamon on the most beautiful collection of poems. I think it deserves a big round of applause. And it's a real honour for me to collaborate with Eamon.
They never saw us coming, but we knew they had arrived.
when the children came on crying. Storm clouds filled the skies. We gathered our belongings and we left before the dawn. There were fires all around us as we skirted round the town. Things changed for the worse. The world said we were cursed. And we're still counting up the cost. Things changed for the worse. The world said we were cursed. That was the year. The harvest was lost. We spent winter in the mountains, did our best to stay alive. We prayed for help or rescue, not everyone survived. We lost mothers, fathers, there were some who lost their minds. We couldn't bury memories of those we left behind. Things changed for the worst. The world said we were cursed. And we're still counting up the cost. Things changed for the worst. The world said we were cursed. That was the year. The harvest was lost. It takes just the set of the seasons for the fields to grow again. It will take so much longer to forget what happened then. They never saw us coming, but we knew they had arrived. When the children came on crying and storm clouds filled the skies.
Moving swiftly along, the years, thanks, Ken. Years ago, it was my good fortune to fall in with a bunch of poets who used to work out of, I was going to say not days, but synods. And one of those was Pierce Hutchinson, who was a fine poet and a wonderful man. And it was through Pierce that, in fact, I came across, was introduced to a lot of poets from the Catalan poets. And in fact, oddly enough, the first time I left Ireland on the catapult over to Liverpool in the 60s, there was a guy, late at night, there was a guy sitting under a top hall with a torch, and he was writing. And I thought it was something like Big Sur by Jack Kerouac. So I approached him. It turned out to be Hayden Murphy, and writing poetry. And I planned on rubbish in my copybooks in my bag. And so I asked him where he was going to Barcelona, and then I think he was going on to New York, to the caves there. So anyway, but when I got back to Ireland, I went up towards Ciss, which you told me about, and that's where I met Pierce. But I became intrigued because the Catalan language was banned, and books were banned, and people, it was kind of an Irish thing, the language being banned. So Pierce had translated in the 50s. He had started translating Catalan poets, and so I started to explore them. And then years ago, I bought a couple of grammars and dictionaries and so on, and started to sort of have a go at certain poems myself, just to see it as an experiment. Some came together, including this one called A Song of the Palace Sweepers, and it's by Joseph Kerner, who was born in 1888 but died in 1970. I took a slight liberty in that I opened the piece with 2 lines from later in the poem. The dust we raise will turn to sparks, bear that in mind on the day of wrath. The great palace would sigh with shame if we didn't arrive at daybreak with our brushes. We sweep away the litter of the dark, so dawn can smile and blush. We incinerate the remnants of ineptitude and deliver ourselves from servitude by reading the signs in discarded feathers, withered flowers and broken glass. Throwing doors and windows open wide, rolling back the carpets and scrubbing the flagstones, we're hit by the stench of abominable things from corners and from thrones. The dust we raise will turn to sparks because it speaks of fraud and graft. Those unfamiliar with palace life bear that in mind on the day of wrath. Jessica Erwin is an actress friend of mine, and she said she was doing a dig out on this really fine. So essentially, it's the heron's wing, which I find it not easy to write it in the ballad style, but I think it's a wonderful style, and the old Irish ashing I think is a wonderful thing. And when you start exploring that whole area, that region, you tend to make extraordinary discoveries, I think. Anyway, I was sort of happy with this piece, so I included it in the collection. I came to the river when the night was dark and spied a woman at work on an ark. A ship for dreams is all she said, as drowsiness through me slowly spread. She had beechwood, oak, and chestnut too, an apple orchard, and a mast of yew. And on each plank she carved a sign, the stars of heaven and the moon for time.
The stars of heaven and the moon for time.
And on that ship a voice did sing, as she raised a sail like a heron's wing.
Sail, sail, the heron's wing.
While the sail did clap like a heron's wing, she gifted me her crystal ring.
Clap, clap, the heron's wing.
Without a word, we sailed away through a sea of silk and a fog so grey it was feathery snow that fell waist deep, as I offered the woman my heart to keep. Lighting a fire in the cabin stove, watching embers glow like a treasure trove, she stitched fresh lilies with a needle and thread, and made a quilt for her fine bed.
She made a quilt for her fine bed.
And on that ship a voice did sing, as she raised a sail like a heron's wing.
Sail, sail, the heron's wing.
While the sail did clap like a heron's wing, she gifted me her crystal ring.
Clap, clap, the heron's wing.
The sun was high in a summer sky, when for all to see I opened one eye. No boat, no woman, no ring on my hand, I was high and dry and alone on land. Those needle tracks upon my arm were never meant to do me harm, for though I can't recall what the voice did sing, my skin is now a heron's wing.
My skin is now a heron's wing.
Jessica was very kind to come in because she took a break from filming, so I appreciate it. All right, time to get out of here. Go back to sonnets and all those poets. I thought Rock and Roll was bad, and indeed it is, and it should be. But by goodness, those poets could drink. I won't mention any names, but I think you can guess who they are. So it was with that in mind that one evening this occurred to me. And look, it's actually, it needs a response. So if you wouldn't mind turning to your hymn books, page 86, you might be able to join me in the response. Page 86 in your hymn books. It's a toast. So let's toast. Let's hear it for all those poems lost in drink. Response. I'll drink to that. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard the master. Approach the bar with alacrity. Before that was Eamon Carr. A big round of applause for Eamon Carr. Make at least two of the audience very happy tonight. To wit, the publisher and the author. Buy the book. Thank you. Good night.